Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Mason.
I'm Danielle.
She's my interior designer, not my wife. Come on in and see my home in Birmingham, Alabama.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey, my name is Mason McCulley. I'm an actor, and welcome to my home in Birmingham, Alabama. Here I have with me my friend and interior designer, Danielle.
Hi. I'm Danielle Balanis. I'm an interior designer based here in Birmingham, Alabama, and I've had the joy and privilege of working with Mason, creating this beautiful space.
And we're gonna show you around, and we're gonna have a lot of fun today. So I've been in this condo about 3 years. I grew up in Birmingham, but I was in LA for 20 years, and I was sort of feeling a pull back to Birmingham. It was in the back of my mind, and I was on the phone with a friend, and I had kind of casually mentioned that in the future I would move back to Birmingham, and she sent me this listing while we were on the phone, and it was so magical that it pulled me back to Birmingham. And this building was built in 1924, and it was apartments when it was built. It was the first of its kind in Alabama. And in the 80s, they converted the apartments into condos. My unit was the ballroom of the building. And I saw photographs of it before it was renovated, and it looked like, it was fabulous, and it looked like someone's fabulous grandmother lived in it. Like dated, but really lovely. And then before I got it, it was renovated by Andrew Brown. And the way I describe it is, it looked like someone's fabulous aunt lived in it. Maybe she had been divorced several times. So when we got it, and we got to start playing with it, it was a blank canvas, but it was a blank canvas with these beautiful features, the painted floor, the curtains, the renovated mirrored walls. And so it really allowed us to have fun with it.
Yes, we had this unbelievable shell to work within, and it really allowed us to bring our quirkiness and weirdness to life.
And we got to use our imagination.
Yes.
I've always been a creative, and whether it was making costumes or puppets or doing theater, I've always been a creative type, and I had always dreamed of going to Hollywood. And so when I was 18 years old, I went out to LA to attend Pepperdine University to study theater. And the reason I chose to go out to Pepperdine is so I could stay in LA, and I did. I stayed in LA, and I pursued TV and film, and I did a bunch of television shows, and I was also a professor in the theater program at Pepperdine University. And I've done some really neat things. I'm typically an actor that pops in on a TV show and then leaves, but I've been a part of some really cool TV shows. And most recently what I've done as an actor is I wrote a one-man show called Carol Cook Died for My Sins, and it's my true story from darkness to light. And what's so fun about that show is that the set of the play is actually based on this home, specifically the bedroom. And when we were kind of coming up with the idea of what the set was going to look like, all of the ideas and the mood boards were all about, as I had said, the story and the world inside my head. And so the set designer, Teshi Nakagawa, was like, well, then it has to be Mason's home, that the inside of Mason's head, this reflects it. And so while I'm in Birmingham, because I've been pulled home, I still spend a lot of time in Los Angeles and New York, so I still keep up my creative ventures.
You're a well-traveled man.
I try.
For me, for design, I did grow up loving it. I would keep journals and make drawings of things, and my mother had Architectural Digest and stacks, and I would just sit and peel through them. As I grew up, I sort of left that notion of design and then came back to it midway through college. It's a passion, it's a love, and even if I had just one person I was working with, it would just fill me so much. I truly enjoy the people, the creating, all the things.
So I feel like I've known Danielle forever. I truly do. I feel like we're kindred spirits. So everyone's saying you have to meet Danielle, you have to meet Danielle, and I met Danielle, and I'm so grateful that it was Danielle, because this would not have happened or worked with anyone else, because it's such a collaboration. And if I ever bring a weird idea to Danielle, she makes it weirder. And if she brings a weird idea to me, I make it weirder. It's never us like curating each other or editing each other. It's always like, And then we can add this on and we can add this on. So we've had so much fun, and I can't imagine doing this with anybody else.
It was a lot of ping-ponging. And when I first met Mason, he actually had his family here for the initial interview to hire me. I had to go through the whole group to get in, but thank goodness I got their blessing. It worked.
She needed approval and
Yes.
the blessing, and everyone approved and everyone blessed. Well, this home is truly a reflection of the world inside my head. This is, I think, truly the meaning of a home, because this is my sanctuary. This is the way I describe this home is this is a place for me to put my things. And I don't just mean my really fun, fabulous things that I love so much. It's a place for me to put my ideas. It's a place for me to put my dreams. It's a place for me to put my memories. And there is such creative and spiritual safety in this place. And so when we started scheming what this was going to look like, it was just playing on, you know, the world inside my head and in your head. It was all about play. It was all about being playful and imagination and magic. And I think we've achieved it. I mean, it is magic.
Absolutely. I had this idea in my head when we first got together. Alessandro Michel was still the creative director at Gucci, and he really had this sort of nerdy library aesthetic that he was pushing out that I loved. And I was like, this is sort of this Gucci library meets cabaret meets falling down Alice's rabbit hole. And I just think meeting has been so kismet that we could put this together and pull it off, because not everyone allows me to be this creative, and I love that push.
Welcome to my foyer, or if you're fancy, foyer.
Here in the foyer, we really wanted to showcase some personal elements of Mason, as you see throughout the house, but this is, I think, extra special. There was always a vision of the mast of a ship having a mermaid, so you see Mason found locally this really amazing table, which he's painted, and it's got that kind of sea mythology thing going on. There's all these great books, pieces that showcase who Mason is, a crystal ball, because who doesn't love a crystal ball? And then there is art, and this is all very special. Each piece has a meaning for Mason, and what we loved that we did when putting this together was some asymmetry. I think it was great for it not to be completely perfect, but for it to make your eye do different things.
I think that one thing that's so fun about this space is that right away you're greeted by a cast of characters. And a character that you're going to hear a lot about as we go throughout my home is this one right here. This is Carol Cook. Carol Cook was a prolific actress. She was very much my muse, and she was very much a confidant and dear friend. And this was a piece that was done by my friend Krista Makovina, and it was actually a test portrait for the play that I wrote called Carol Cook Died for My Sins. And so you're greeted by Carol, and then I have some Jesuses happening. This one came from France. I have a friend who's an antique dealer, and she was going to France on a buying trip, and I said, please find me something religious and weird. The weirder the better. And so this is like a very iconic image of Jesus, but I call it Jesus Can't Even, because it looks like he just can't even. It looks like he just can't even. And then there's another portrait of Jesus here, and then what I love are these bronze busts. I got them at the flea market in Mexico City. And it's so fun because you're greeted by these characters. In keeping with what Danielle was talking about regarding the mast of the ship, we have two mermaids that greet you when you arrive. And they were actually props from Sony Studios. Sony was having a prop auction, and I got very invested in bidding on these mermaids. So much so that I think I probably did it wrong, because I think I ended up spending a little too much money. But I love them so much, and
We had looked everywhere.
we looked everywhere for
I remember
mermaids.
it was just a very long hunt, and so when he found these, I said, you better get them.
Because we were originally going to put a mermaid there. but
Yes.
We couldn't find a mermaid. Listen, a mermaid from a ship is very hard to find.
But two is better than one.
Two is better than one. And so those are my Sony Pictures prop mermaids. This portrait here is a great 13 times either uncle or grandfather, but he came over from England a very, very long time ago, and that was actually hanging in a great aunt's house. These I love. These are Toby jugs that belong to my grandmother. I loved them so much as a child. My grandmother would get one every year, a different one every year, and so we have a whole collection of different characters of the Toby jugs. And my grandmother had them all over her mantelpiece when I was a kid, and I would always admire them because they were so theatrical to me, and she would always say, when I die, those are yours. And there they are. That one's the Pied Piper, and that's what some people refer to me as.
So now we're heading into the living room, and one of the first things you notice is this amazing mural that was hand painted by a fabulous LA artist who's good friends with Mason. Leading into this, he and I looked and looked at a million wallpapers because we knew that this arch needed something really special, and nothing worked. Nothing was right.
Yeah.
Like we had so many trial and errors, and I think there were some that were close, but you finally came up with the idea that your friend.
Yes, my friend Krista Makovina, who is a brilliant artist based in Los Angeles, she actually painted this in LA on muslin in her studio, and then she shipped it to Birmingham, and Danielle's installer, they put up scaffolding, and there were 4 people here, and they were spraying it down, and they beautifully adhered it to this arch. And the story of the mural is the heron represents my mother, who passed away a year and a half ago, and then the peacock, while it is a male peacock, it represents my friend Carol Cook, who I spoke of earlier. And they both passed away 3 months apart from each other, and they are my 2 muses, my 2 guardians. And the name of this mural is In the Story, because amidst my grief journey, I realized that life really gets good and gets really sweet when you realize you're in the middle of the story. It's not about the past, and it's not about the future, it's about the present. And that's what this is. It's in the middle of the story, and there is the dark of the forest and the light of the forest, and it represents my journey and the magic that can be. You know, no matter how dark it gets, there's always light, and I just think it's so special, and it's such a centerpiece
Yes.
to this room.
I don't think anything would have worked. I think it had to be commissioned because it's so thought out, so special. And to finish it off, we decided, like last minute, as they were hanging it, I ordered this chartreuse grosgrain from Samuel & Sons because we knew it needed something to make it feel edged out and complete. And I think it really does. It punctuates it in all the right ways.
And everything means something. There's a bird cage. There's a ladybug. Everything, is symbolic. And Krista, she captured it. She
Nailed
captured
it.
the whole
Yes.
thing.
So as you can see, this ballroom, it's massive. It's sort of a bowling alley of a room. And walking in, I knew we had to separate it into 3 even sections. So we've got this, which is our more casual seating, hangout area. And when Mason moved in, he had no furniture. So he just ran out and bought 2 chairs and a sofa he just had to have somewhere to sit.
I didn't consult Danielle.
He didn't. So the sofa was easy. It was great. We were able to throw pillows, this wonderful, I believe it's an Afghan throw on it, and it just worked. The chairs were gray.
She didn't like the color.
They weren't terrible, but we found this lovely Osborne and Little chartreuse fabric also. There's a common thread. It's a color we love, and we were able to recover them, and they just took on a new life. They feel so much more substantial and bespoke. And then these amazing pillows he found in Aspen. He's always traveling, finding great things.
Yeah, and I texted you photos of them.
Yes. But this area is all about being cozy, having conversation. I mean, every time I come over, this is where we sit and talk and drink our Diet Coke.
And drink our Diet Coke. And
Yeah.
it's collected. This is
Yes.
a collected space.
It is.
And this gallery wall, everything on the wall means something.
Yes.
And I feel like, the way Danielle split up the room into 3, this really is, even though it's casual with giant peacocks, it really is like, this is the whimsical, this is the fun part.
Yes.
And as I said, all of the art means something, and this is the theatrics.
And it's a mix of new and old. There are antique pieces. There's a new coffee table. There's these thrifty fine chairs, which I want to buy from him. if he'll ever sell them to me. There's these new lamps that we did custom lampshades for. It's such a blend and a marriage of what's crusty and clean, and it makes it work.
And one thing that's kind of a fun story is that originally, and these are giant planters, they're 500 pounds each. Originally, there were 14-foot live palm trees in them, and they were gorgeous. They were very grand. They were the bane of my existence, and I couldn't. It didn't work, and so we had but the palm trees are doing great. They actually, this is true, they got planted by someone's pool, so they're living life. But my friend created these tabletops, and we found these amazing Italian men and the peacocks, and so we continued the drama and the height without the palms, and I'm obsessed. It's so gay. So as I said, I'm inspired by people and characters, and this is my chance to name drop with this gallery wall. But this is a portrait of my friend Annalie Ashford, and she was my roommate in LA when she was filming the show Masters of Sex on Showtime. And she came home with these, they were doing a shoot on set, and she had this photograph, and I was obsessed with it, and I was like, I have to have it. And so she gave it to me, and then Danielle had this beautiful frame put together. And then another one that is very special to me. I think this was in Vanity Fair. It was just a page I ripped out of Issa Rae. And Issa Rae is the creator and star of Insecure. And I got to do 3 seasons of Insecure. That was a very big piece of my life. And as I said before, I pop in and out of TV shows, but that was the only show that I got to come back on. And I was a small part on a big show, but it meant a lot to me. And I love that photograph of her. And then this I have to speak of. This is very special. This was the first costume sketch. I believe it was 1959 when my friend Carol Cook was signed to Desilu by Lucille Ball. I was cleaning out her garage in LA and I found this and I had it framed and she said I could have it. So this whole wall is filled with everything means something.
So the mirrors that are on this wall and that wall were part of the bonus of buying a home originally designed by Andrew Brown, and they really expand the space. Instead of that being a solid wall and it closing in, you see reflectiveness and it makes it feel bigger. So yes, that's a masterclass trick that Andrew Brown taught us.
And what I think is so fun is there's, even though it's these beautiful mirrors and we've filled it with art, you see other things within the mirrors. If you're sitting over there, you see the portrait of my great-grandfather. Over here, we left this intentionally blank because you see the profile of this beautiful carved man. Yeah, I don't know, it adds so much more magic to the space.
It does.
I love this piece so much because Danielle has taught me all about high and low and texture. And this came from my friend Betty Margaret, who has an antique store called The Nest. And she posted a photo of it on Instagram, and it was still in the truck, and it was strapped up. And I texted Danielle, and I was like, I don't know where that's gonna go or what we're gonna do with it, but we have to get it. And it's an old pedestal, and it was originally red, and it's messed up, and the green paint is actually from where it was out in someone's yard, and the man was painting his house this green-gray color, and so he would just use it to wipe his brush on. But there's this patina on it. And so it's one of my favorite pieces that I have, and it's not because it's fancy. Someone would think it's not worth anything. Someone found it in a yard, but to me it looks like it's like sunken treasure. It looks like it could live in the bottom of a fishbowl.
It's perfectly imperfect.
It's perfectly imperfect, and this is a story right here. You look at this piece, and there's a story is being told.
It's lived many lives.
It has lived many lives. Yes, I am a maximalist. I mean, it's all, everyone's, someone called me like a chic hoarder.
Collector.
I'm a collector, thank you. I like my things, and it's not because they are so valuable, they're valuable to me. I like the stories behind them, and I like, as you said, layering and collecting and telling a story in a vignette. And yeah, definitely a maximalist. This is theater. That's what this is. I mean, design is theater. This is theatrics, and especially in a place like this, I mean, you gotta go a little bit crazy and have fun with it, otherwise what's the point? It would be boring if you walked in here and it wasn't a little bit ridiculous.
I think I read recently someone saying how layering is intelligent. It makes your room intelligent. And it really does.
I'm intelligent, is what you're saying.
My mantra is always more is more. So I'm like, bring it on. I love all that Mason pulls out. When we were getting things for his place, he has this very lovely fairy godmother Rhoda, and I went to her storage unit and pulled out items that she was going to gift Mason. And it was so fun. It was treasure hunting, it was digging. But yes, I'm a maximalist, and so I can't imagine someone who wanted a plain, blank white apartment or home calling me. It fits.
And we're always texting each other constantly if we're like antiquing or traveling, and it's like, look what I found. Even if it's not something that we're going to buy, it's just like, oh my God, you'd love this. Danielle would love this. And we have such similar interests and aesthetics. And so, yeah, we get a kick out of something that's over the top and grand and weird. And sometimes Danielle will come up with an idea and it's something that I wouldn't even think of, and I see it. She'll go, well, what about this here? And I'm like, yeah, I would have never thought about that. But it's, I don't know, we play off of each other quite beautifully.
Yeah, it's good synergy.
It's fun. It's so fun. And that's what it should be. Fun.
Maybe we should open a store of weird objects.
I want to. I would love to open a store with weird objects. Okay, so this center table, as we see, we're surrounded by these beautiful chairs, and I think these chairs are the perfect example of the way we work together. I was at like an antique mall with all the different stalls, and I had seen these chairs before, and I think they're 1950s Italian reproduction, but the fabric on the seats were not very cute, but they were such a good deal. And I remember texting Danielle, and I don't even think that I was planning on having them at my place, but I texted you a photo of them, and right away she said, I have scrap designer fabric, and we can pick a different
scrap each chair. Yeah.
And they've become this like beautiful centerpiece to the room.
I mean, this is such a small piece of something that you really couldn't have used it for anything else. And the fact that we could creatively integrate it into all these chairs, and it's just another pop of color and life, and I think it goes so well,
and it's playful, and I think that as grand as this room is, you walk in and you can't take yourself too seriously if you live in a place like this, because it's a bit ridiculous, like me. So I think this is the perfect sort of like,
it is.
entrance.
It plays into fun. It does. We're gonna have fun.
So the reason the chairs are pointed outwards is because function is not always necessary when it comes to design. And they are functional because you can sit in them, but sometimes the only function is that they need to be pretty. And it looks really pretty.
Form over function.
Form over function. And this table actually has 3 leaves. So if I wanted to host a dinner party, I could. I never have. But, we have we have a collection of chairs that we can scatter around that table.
And there are more chairs. We've got others that we originally picked. I mean, it's like we both have a chair problem.
Yes.
I love chairs. So
chairs are fun.
Yes. So we've got this amazing table we found on First Dibs, and it expands, but we like keeping it as more of a center round table. It functions with the way the rooms work. And we have always had this vision of a giant fish bowl with goldfish. I mean, why wouldn't you have that? So we finally made it come true. But I think this is all about the obscure and things that keep you questioning. And so aside from having a lovely vase of flowers, you've got to have something that's intriguing, and that's where the fish came into play.
So I grew up in Birmingham, and I had the great fortune of growing up with 2 artists on either side of our house as neighbors. And one of the artists was named Helen Balvig, and she was very much a grandmother, fairy godmother type figure to me, and this came from her house. This was a console that she had, and we were looking for something to sort of land here. And I don't know, it makes me happy. It makes me happy that it gets to live in this space. As early as 2 years old, my mom would let me wander over to my neighbors' houses, and I would just go sit in her kitchen and chit-chat. And it just makes me happy that there's a piece of her here.
So as we were on the hunt, we'd even consulted with a marble source here in town about making a custom piece and having them bring it in. And I really don't think anything would have been better or more special than this, something that was already existing, finding a new purpose and a new life in here. And going back to Gucci and the love of books, I think what better way to come into a dining room than to have your book collection out on display for everyone.
These are my favorites. These are three. I think there's 4 in the series, but I found 3 at a vintage bookstore here in Birmingham, and I bought it simply for the title. It's the Self-Interpreting Bible. I love that title so much, and I think that all Bibles should be self-interpreting.
So over here for the love of green, we've got the chartreuse happening in the living room, and now it's repeated with our lovely green glassware. And I think for Mason, he's always ready to entertain and host, whether it's 2 people coming by one afternoon or it's a party. And so I think he's prepared.
I prepared, and also the bar cart was a gift for my 40th birthday from my best friend Joe. And even though I don't drink alcohol anymore, my friends do, so I'm always ready to serve and host.
So some more of the gorgeous elements that we were able to inherit from Andrew's pre-design. These amazing floors that he had hand painted, the geometry, the play of the blue and black, it just goes so well with the fabrics and colors that we've brought in. So we have these 18-foot ceilings in this ballroom, and we also inherited these gorgeous creamy white drapes. They filter the light beautifully. They don't compete with what's happening in here. They're just a nice, subdued way to bring in all of our crazy. What I love most about this home is not just the grandeur, but I think it's how personal it is. There's so many pieces that have pulled in that have meaning, that come from a family member, that come from a friend. I just feel like it has a soul. And so I think that's what I love so much about this.
It does have a soul, and my favorite thing about this place is that it was a ballroom, and so it was meant to be a gathering place. It was a place, I think there are ghosts in here, good ones. It was a place where people celebrated. This is a place where people came and they danced and they had parties, and so we've done that. We host art parties, and there's been fundraisers in here, and it is a place for people to gather and to think and to celebrate, and that's how I feel when I'm in this home. I feel like I'm celebrating. I feel like I'm celebrating life, and I feel like I'm celebrating ideas and people that have come before me. I know that sounds so cheesy, but this place is filled with ancestors, and it's my ancestors and it's ancestors of other people, and it feels creative. You walk in and there's an energy that's in here.
Yes, good energy.
Good energy. So here we are in the more what we call formal part of the living room. And one of the things that I want to point out really quickly is that this, we talked about my fairy godmother Rhoda, who let us collect things. Well, I went to her house recently, and I was looking for some pots. I actually found that I stole this pot from her backyard. And in her backyard, there was this St. Francis statue, but it was in 3 different pieces. And I managed to find all 3 of the pieces and piece them back together, and St. Francis was my mother's favorite saint. So that made me so happy, and it was such a find. And actually, this is a garden bench. This is a limestone garden bench. It's extremely heavy. And, in keeping with the layers of this home, these are books that were from my grandfather and great-grandfather, and then this beautiful, scantily clad man came from an antique store here in Birmingham, and I love the look of it all.
So as we make our way into this lovely cocoon, we've got plants stationed throughout, and it reminds me of a beautiful picture I saw of this white space that was Rose Tarlow's, and she had the outside coming in with her plants, and so it feels so inviting. We found this piece. This was one of the first pieces I introduced him to that we needed to purchase for the space, and it has been such an anchor for this room. And then the bird cages. Please tell us about the bird cages.
I like bird cages. You can probably tell I like bird cages. And so actually when Danielle when we first met, you said to me, I feel like we need a bird cage in this space. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
And so these we were just going to do one bird cage, but the bird cages have really taken on a symbolic meaning for me. And originally, when I had the bird cages, there weren't as many. I had pieces of crystal, antique crystal inside of them. And then one day I decided I don't want anything inside the bird cages. I wanted them to be empty. It was very symbolic. And then one day I jolted up and I was like, they can't only just be empty, they have to be open. So all of the bird cages are open, and there's a bird cage on the mural, and then I have one at the end of my bed, and then there's one in the corner. And the bird cages, to me, are freedom. It is freedom to be and to do and to live however you want to authentically live. And no matter what's in your cage, it doesn't have to stay there. So I love the notion of these bird cages. And then right here is the portrait of my grandfather. This is very special to me. My grandfather, I never knew him, but I'm named after him, and he was my mother's favorite person. And he was a renowned surgeon in the Southeast, but he wanted to be an actor. But his family did not support that dream, so he became a renowned surgeon. That portrait means a lot to me because I never knew him, but he had such an impact on my life, and I think that that's what portraits are, and that's what portraits do, is they're a recalling. They remind you of people that are past and of things that are within you. And I don't know, I think that's why these portraits are so fun. That's my great-great-aunt, and that's my great-grandmother. But yeah, I am so intrigued by ancestry. And I don't just mean the history of it, but what did they pass on to you? What did they pass on to you that you're not even aware of? I mean, he was a creative and wanted to be an actor, and I just think the notion of family members that came before us is so interesting.
Having these avant-garde portraitures also heightens the space of this parlor, more formal setup. You know, it's not as busy as what we did in the living room. It's a little more solemn and
Grounded.
It is. It's grounded.
This is as grounded as it gets for me.
So this coffee table is another high-low thrifty find, and it was sort of an ugly brown wood. And I like brown wood furniture, but this was not elegant enough for the space. So we decided to paint it another favorite color, a beloved mustard, and had a local artist painter friend tackle this, and she did a phenomenal job in taking on, we did two-tone on the details and making it darker, and then the background, the lighter shade. So I'm very proud of how this turned out and how you could take something very inexpensive, junk-teak, and turn it into something very bespoke and unique. Inspiration comes in so many forms, and for me, I think it's in the things I see, in the things I taste, in the things I hear. It's very sensorial for me, but I love music, and I think that has been a huge inspiration. I love movies and cinema. I think James Bond, any of those films, the way it designs, it's such a great inspiration. I love traveling. That inspires me. It's like Diana Vreeland said, the eye has to travel. And just, I think there's some great designers out there. There's your Miles Redd, your Pearson Wards, that are always keeping me inspired and on my toes.
For me, I am inspired by people. I am inspired by stories. I'm inspired by characters, and not just characters in books and characters in movies and TV, but like characters. And I also, one of the things I am inspired by, which is kind of strange, is religious iconography. Like you're gonna see it, there's a lot of religious iconography around here. And it's not because I'm religious, it's because I'm spiritual, but I'm inspired by the history of it and the story of it and the lore of it. Yeah, I mean, I'm inspired by characters. This home is filled with all sorts of characters, not just me. But it's people from my past or people from history. And I just think, yeah, quirk and character. Anything weird and wonderful and textured.
If this home is a circus of characters, you're the ringleader.
Yes, I am the ringleader. So now we're entering into my bedroom, and what I love about this space is that you have this beautiful view looking into the bedroom from the living room. My favorite is the view that I have when I'm looking from the bed, and this is what I get to see, and this echoes the world inside my head, and this is actually what the set of my play was based on. This is the magic, this is the fun, this is the collected. I realized one day that essentially this entire space, not just this room, is an altar. And it's an altar, as I said, we were talking about the portraits, it's an altar to remind us of these people that have passed. And I love my little altar because, you know, I have Carol again, and then I have my mother, and then I have my grandmother, my great-grandfather, and I have all of these special people that I want to be reminded of. And one of my favorite things in this little corner is this card my mother sent me when I was in LA. I had it framed, and it was a time in my time in Los Angeles when absolutely nothing was going on for me acting-wise. And I got this card in the mail, and it said, "There is no use trying," said Alice. "One can't believe impossible things." "I dare say you haven't had much practice," said the Queen. "When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast." It's from Alice in Wonderland. And inside the card, my mom wrote, "Keep believing, Mace." Well, that's what this is. This is us believing. And I feel this is the safe place that I spoke of. This is the sanctuary part. So this room is a collection of me, and one of my favorite pieces is this is a flag that belonged to my great-grandmother, who was British, and we found it, and I had it framed, and it's from like the 1800s, and this is all just a collection of different things that mean something to me.
So in the bedroom, we had these gorgeous drapes were already here, and we decided, I like a dark bedroom very, very much. I like the moodiness of it. I like the way it just feels a little bit sensual when you go to sleep. So we decided to match the color, painted the walls navy, ceiling as well, and just really made it feel so warm. This bed Mason picked out. It's lovely, and he had these great paintings which he painted himself. He's also an artist, one of his many talents, and so we knew the bed, the art, just to take things up, and then we put this antique tapestry as another layer on his bed because you can't have too many layers.
And there's actually a fun story. I was thinking about this morning. These paintings that I did, they were actually commissioned for the Greystone Mansion for the design show house a long time ago, like 10 years ago. And when I showed up and delivered them to the Greystone Mansion in LA, they didn't work. So now they're mine. But I love them so much. And I never had a space for them in LA because they're so big. But I always hoped that one day there'd be a space for them. And they are really fun here. Mm-hmm. So this table was given to me by my friend and muse, Carol Cook. This was her table that was in her dressing room forever and ever and ever. And she actually gave it to me while she was still alive. So it's very special to me. This tapestry I got in Canada, and this is true, or they say it was, I don't know, they could be lying, but it was woven by nuns in Quebec, and I thought that was really neat. Danielle found the mushrooms.
I did. Oh, they looked like Mason. They looked like something he would be like hopping through a field in Folly and just, there's mushrooms. So anything quirky like that I find, I love, I call them little kisses, little gifts you can give people. It's so fun.
This is my Michelangelo Moses that I got because he was handsome.
So one thing Mason and I both love doing is layering rugs. And Mason picked out and bought this rug that's in his bedroom. We weren't sure if we were going to use it in there and here, where it was going to go. It ended up fitting best in the bedroom, but we were able to add to it and layer on it. And I think it's just another way of making a room more complex and intelligent and interesting.
So this is the primary bathroom that I wanted to show you very quickly just because it's so fabulous. This is the way it came when I bought the place. Andrew Brown designed it, and the wallpaper is delicious, and the marble, and we didn't have to, there's so much happening in a beautiful way that we didn't have to do anything to it. We didn't want to do anything to it, except for this Nordic god right here. I added that. Okay, so these are all samples from Perfume Head, and the reason I got these is because my friend Krista Makovina, who painted the mural, designed a label for them. She designed the Moonflower label, and it's actually, the proceeds go to the Art of Elysium, which is a charity that I am very involved with in Los Angeles. So that's a fun little thing. And to warm up the space, we just added this estate sale rug that we found, and yeah, this is a cozy and wonderful place to get ready.
So now we're going to take you upstairs to the guest suite, which is behind mystery door number 1 here.
Ta-da! And we do have the wise men here, and they are out all year long, not just for Christmas. I have an affinity for the wise men. They're my favorite part of the Nativity. And they are, in fact, astrologers. Astrologers.
And I think everyone needs one little kitschy something around the house. So this is like a little bit of bad taste goes a long way. So here we have the lovely guest suite, and it is once again filled with family relics and objects of interest. It's definitely a cabinet of curiosities.
We wanted it to kind of feel like a study. It's so cozy and dark up here, and these pieces were from a book from 1828 that belonged to I think it was my grandfather or my great-grandfather, but I had them framed, and it may have been my grandfather because the book is in German and he was a surgeon in the Second World War, so he could have acquired them while he was over there. But I just think that they're so interesting and beautiful, and they're all perfectly cut out, and yeah, they're also a little bit creepy, but like in an artistic way.
So in all the bedrooms, we definitely stayed super moody. I feel like you get the best sleep when it's dark and when you can just pull under this fur blanket and you're really layered into the room, you're embedded in it. So in keeping with the study idea, dual bedroom, we've got this lovely chest, another, find of Mason's here in town locally that just pulls everything together. The chair, the sofa, the books. The fox. The fox.
The fox is another find from my fairy godmother, Rhoda. And actually the fox often appears on my family's Thanksgiving table. We put the fox in the center of the table and we do flowers around the fox, which is strange and fun. Oh, this is fun. We call this our friendship vase.
Yes.
This is a piece we got here in Birmingham, and we share it. we pass it back and forth.
Yes, we both wanted it,
Yeah.
so it gets to live with both of us. We have joint custody.
Joint custody of the friendship base.
Yes. So this headboard was another find when I went with Rhoda and pillaged her storage unit, and we thought it would be perfect up here, and it is. It's petite enough with the lower ceilings, but it's cozy and it just works with these end tables, the lamps, the bedding. I think it was the perfect piece for this space. So this rug on the floor came from Mason's old place in LA. I love we were able to reuse it. I feel like sometimes you move from house to house and things just do not work. And I always feel happy to see something repurposed. I believe a home has a soul when it has things that have meaning. It's not just about gathering possessions, but it's about something that speaks to you within. And I think it's a connection of what you've got going on inside and what's happening outside. So for me, that's what gives a home a soul.
Exactly, and I think it's the soul and it's the story. And I think that when you walk in, the way I say about this place is that if let's say I'm not here and someone walks in, they're gonna look around and go, I have an idea of who this crazy person is.
That's good. Yeah.
It's true, it's a story. And so I think that it's really fun when you walk into a space and you have a sense of who lives here. And I think that you know who lives here. It really, the story is so told in this place because of all of the things and the art, and I think that's what it is. I think a home is a reflection of who lives there. And one thing that's been so beautiful about this place is a home is you're able to curate your own perspective.
Yeah.
And so for me, this place is filled with things that I love and people that I love. And so it reminds me of who I am.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, beautifully said, yeah. I think some of the best homes I do, and even my own home, you see me when you walk in, and I see you when I walk in here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thanks so much for coming, Homeworthy. We enjoyed it.
And now it is time for you guys to leave. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.